Today, a Redditor confesses they got the staff at their group home fired. We'll get into that in a bit, but first, texted my wife that I love her, got back a thumbs up, just don't know what to do with this. My wife has been really depressed recently. She thinks she's worthless and no one likes her, not me and not our friends, which as an aside, she doesn't even think are our friends. She thinks they're my friends who only hang out with her because I'm there, but I digress. I've been telling her in person and via text all our marriage how much I love her, and recently I've been doing it even more both in person and via text. Today I sent a whole paragraph about how I want to help, but I don't know how. Really just a recap of the conversations we had at home last night and this morning, which I ended with, "I just love you and wish you knew how much." She responded by thumbs upping the message. I just don't even know anymore. I'm not looking for advice. If I were, I would post in a different sub and provide more detail. I'm in this sub because I just want to sigh dejectedly. I said I love you. She said thumbs up. Like, just what even the freak? Didn't know that we were going to be starting off with some real feels here today, but obviously OP didn't ask for advice, but in general I feel like it's an important thing to not get too caught up in specifically the reaction. I mean, OP knows better than everybody what she's going through and how that can affect her responses. I imagine it can very easily warp kind of your perspective and outlook on things, and even stuff like, "I love you." A1 Sauced commented, "I think her response is due to her depression, not an indication she doesn't love you back. She just doesn't feel like she's even capable of being loved right now. She could really benefit from getting in to see a therapist." Edit, to clarify, I'm not saying that having depression makes her behavior acceptable. You're still responsible for your behavior even if you're mentally ill, just saying that the context likely changes the meaning of the thumbs up. It doesn't excuse it, merely explains it, and changes the way it should be interpreted. Also, hi, I'm Steven, and if you guys enjoy hearing Redditors get some wild things off their chests, why not hit those like and subscribe buttons down below? Our next story is, I broke up with my boyfriend after he gave me the silent treatment for 4 days because I said no to his friend moving into my apartment. Hi everyone, I'm 24-year-old female, sharing this because it's been heavy on my mind and I just need to let it out. A little background, I have my own small one-bedroom apartment. About 5 months into dating my boyfriend, 29-year-old male, he hit a rough financial patch, and I let him move in temporarily. He promised that it would just be for a little while until he got back on his feet. I was trying to be supportive and a good girlfriend. Fast forward, he never left. We've been together 9 months now. He doesn't pay rent, utilities, or anything significant, just occasionally buys groceries, which I also contribute to. So basically, I'm covering almost everything. Now to what happened. Recently, he asked if one of his friends could move in with us for a while. I said no. Our apartment is tiny and barely fits the two of us, and honestly, I didn't feel comfortable having someone else live with us. The first day after I said no, he completely ignored me. I thought, okay, maybe he just needs space, and gave him the benefit of the doubt. But on the second day, when I tried to talk to him and work things out, he literally shut me down stone cold. No talking, no eye contact, just complete silent treatment like I didn't exist. This went on for 4 full days. I was so miserable and honestly felt completely disrespected in my own home. The home he wasn't even supposed to be living in this long. After those 4 days, I realized I deserved better and ended the relationship. Now, a couple of mutual friends are saying I should have been more understanding and that he was just hurt. But to me, it's not about being upset, it's about refusing to communicate, disrespecting boundaries, and making me feel invisible in my own space. Honestly, even after dating for 5 months, when they start asking for favors of this magnitude, when you've already given them quite a bit of favors as it is, it's definitely time to at least take a long, hard look at the relationship, if not call it quits. First it's them, then their friend, and then all of a sudden their cousin who's also going through a hard time can sleep in the closet. My ex who's going through a rough time can probably fit underneath the bed. Necessary Friendship 9 commented, "Good riddance, he literally contributed nothing and had the audacity to ask for his friend to move in. You know his friend would have been the same way and you would be paying for both of them. Those friends are stupid. Let them host your boyfriend and his friend. See how long they put up with it." Our next story is, my parents' HOA is getting out of hand. Last week, my parents had one of those black painted aluminum fences installed. The neighborhood fence maximum height is 48 inches, so my parents purchased a 48-inch fence to comply, despite them preferring the 60-inch and 72-inch versions more. The day after the contractor completed the job, two elderly women walked right onto their property, a good 70 or 80 feet from the road, and measured the fence compliance. What they and I didn't realize is the fence is installed 1 inch off that grass to allow room for the weed whacker to fit below the bottom rail. So the ladies knocked on their door to report their fence was approximately 49 inches everywhere they measured without permission. It's worth noting that my dad did tell the contractor that they were limited to a 48-inch fence at the time of hiring. The women brought this to the HOA board yesterday, and all 5 members politely told them to pound sand, and while technically they're correct that the fence is 1 inch too tall, the logic on why and materials purchased are correct and make sense. Apparently this isn't going to end here, as one of the women called my mom to say that they need to remove the fence or she would get her attorneys involved. Reason being, she was forced to remove her 6-foot vinyl privacy fence around her pool 18 months ago. So now she's out for revenge, I guess. My dad is waiting on the next shoe to drop, if any, but he knows for a fact of the 115-ish homes in the HOA, at least 20 or 30 have 4-foot fences and many you can see are above the grass, just like his. This may actually become a gigantic war over 1 inch. Well, so to be fair to OP and play devil's advocate, 1 inch is pretty big. Am I right or am I right? In all seriousness though, I hope if any lawyer she finds is willing to take this, they're doing so solely because the fees they're going to make off of this stupid, useless lawsuit that's going to get immediately thrown out is worth putting up with the hassle. Yamaha Ryoko commented, "There's always that 1 or 2 people in the community that believe the HOA empowers them, and now they are the HOA police. I too am often bitter about our HOA. They made me replace my garage door for a baseball dent in the bottom panel. They argued that I only needed to replace the bottom panel and it's not a big deal. My garage guy said there's no point in replacing just the bottom panel of a 30-year door. The door comes as a kit, and to replace the bottom panel, you have to go through all of the same motions regardless with the springs, cables, rollers, and hinges. They were assessing me $50 a month until I had it done in the spring. I drive around the neighborhood. Out of 100 doors, I counted 23 that had noticeable dents in them. But I didn't see anyone else replacing their door. I've seen what's happening. Lady with a clipboard walks unit to unit and finds things to write them up for. No real consistency or fairness about the process. I put a sign outside that said, "Lady with clipboard, not welcome." Now, instead of reporting the other 23 people with noticeable dents in their garage door, I actually started attending the board meetings where I can verbally express that I have never been late on monthly, have never had the police come to my condo, not even for a noise complaint, and I have the best kept condo in the development. Finding things to ding me for is ridiculous when you have units that are 5,000 behind in monthlies. You know, I just gotta chime in here, maybe Yamaha being so punctual is why they keep coming after them. They're not gonna get any $50 garage door money out of the guy that's $5,000 behind anyways. Our next story is, I found a letter my mom wrote for me 10 years after she passed. Last week, while cleaning out my childhood home to prepare it for sale, I found an old jewelry box tucked away behind a loose panel in my closet. Inside, there was a letter addressed to me in my mom's handwriting. She passed away 10 years ago. The letter wasn't anything grand. No secret confession or hidden treasure map. It was simple. She told me how proud she was of the person she knew I would become. She wrote about the little quirks she loved about me as a kid. She even made a few cheesy jokes, like she always did. Reading it, I cried like I hadn't in years. It felt like she had reached across time just to hug me when I needed it most. Life has been overwhelming lately. I felt so lost, but finding that letter, it was like she knew. Like she was still here whispering, "You've got this." I don't even care if nobody believes me. I just needed to tell someone, because today, I feel a little less alone. Well, I'm certainly glad OP happened to look behind a loose panel in their closet. Knowing my dumb self, I'd probably be like, "Oh, that's loose, don't want to mess with that. Bet there's a spider behind it or something." To be fair though, in my childhood home, if there was a loose plank in my closet, I probably would have shoved crayons and Dragon Ball Z action figures in there or something at some point. I was one of the smart ones, you know. Depressed Earth Angel commented, "That's a beautiful and very unique feeling. My mom passed when I was 6, so I didn't get the chance to know her for too long. This was in 1992, and when my dad passed away last winter while going through his things, I found a card my mom had written to a friend upon my birth, which never made it to that friend. She said some really sweet things about how happy she was to have a little boy, and also said some very endearing things about my dad in the same note. It's the only thing of the sort I have, and I imagine you'll cherish your find as much as I cherish mine. Sorry for your loss, OP." Our next story is, "My late husband's best friend confessed he's been waiting for me. I feel confused, not flattered. I'm a 38-year-old widow and mother of an 11-year-old boy. My husband passed away 3 years ago in a car accident. His best friend, let's call him Jay, has always stayed around helping with errands, occasionally checking in, even helping my son with his homework when I couldn't. A few nights ago, after we had a glass of wine in the kitchen while my son was asleep, he confessed that he'd been in love with me for years. He said he didn't speak while my husband was alive out of respect, but now believes maybe we're meant to be. I was stunned. This is someone I trusted like a brother. I didn't know how to respond. A part of me feels guilty for not immediately pushing him away, and another part of me feels even guiltier for wondering what if. I feel emotionally overwhelmed. I don't think I'm ready for anything, but I also haven't felt desired or emotionally supported in so long. I don't know what to think. I guess I just needed to share this somewhere anonymously. Thanks for reading if you made it this far." Whew, this is a very tricky one to kind of tackle. I feel like there's definitely going to be that very loud subset of people that are like, "This is an utter violation of the bro code." I feel like it's one of those situations where you can have the full gamut of possible reactions, and almost every single one is going to be valid. "This is absolutely disgusting me, you're like a brother." Completely valid. If OP was like, "Well, they have been completely supportive, didn't make a move when it was inappropriate, and only now are doing things and not inappropriately specifically. I wonder, should OP really feel guilty or like they've committed a cardinal sin if they are interested?" BCGJ365 commented, "This is a tough one. I'm guessing he was hoping you would immediately be open to exploring the possibility and was willing to shoot his shot. First and foremost, there is no timetable for grief, so only you know when you're ready for something new. However, please don't string him along. Be honest, and if there is a possibility of this developing at some point, then communicate that to him and mention that it's not now. Secondly, don't feel pressured to do this. Only get into this if you are willing. Decide if you're willing to take that chance, and it may sound cruel, but don't think my late husband would or would not want me to do this, or our family and friends would be for or against. This is a two-person conversation. Good luck with whatever you do, but be open to being happy." Our next story is, "I overheard my boyfriend mocking my autism. Now I'm ending things. I, 29-year-old female, have a boyfriend, 32-year-old male, and we've been together for almost a year now. Some background, I'm autistic, specifically I'm high functioning. I've never struggled intellectually. In fact, my autism has helped me excel academically, and I earned all my degrees faster than most people. Professionally, I'm doing great. However, socially, it's a different story. I often struggle to understand social nuances. That's actually what drew me to my first degree in psychology, an attempt to understand people on a theoretical level. But even with all that knowledge, real emotional connection is still something abstract to me. I can explain attraction in relationships academically, emotional support, self-affirmation, etc., but I don't really feel it the same way others do. Because of this, my social circle has always consisted of other neurodivergent people and close colleagues. I hate having to explain myself constantly. Then about a year ago, I met Jake. Fake name, he's neurotypical, and I was genuinely surprised by how easily we clicked. Something that almost never happens for me with people outside the neurodivergent community. Things were great at first, we went on dates, I even willingly cut down my work hours, which had never happened before. Work has always been incredibly important to me. Jake was attentive and made a sincere effort to understand my disorder. Early on, he asked for more information, so I gave him some books, and I was touched when he actually read them. But about 3 months ago, things started to change. According to Jake, we were arguing more. Because of my autism, I often don't realize when I offend people unintentionally, so I've always appreciated when someone would calmly explain what I did wrong so I could learn and do better. Jake used to do that. He would gently point things out and offer alternative ways to phrase things. I appreciated that. Whenever I accidentally hurt him, I would apologize and usually give a small gift, like how people give flowers after a fight. I thought it was a normal thing couples did to make amends. For example, once at a dinner with his family, his sister said something rude to me. His dad tried to brush it off, saying that she was always like that, and I said, "Oh, it's fine. I used to work with children who had narcissistic parents. She's just projecting." Later, Jake told me that his mother was deeply upset because she thought I was calling her a narcissist, and he said I should apologize. I honestly still don't see what was wrong with what I said. From a psychological point of view, it was a fair assessment, but to avoid making it worse, I apologized and even bought his mother a necklace. After that incident, Jake started pointing out every little thing I said. It wasn't just occasional corrections anymore, it felt constant, and each time he expected me to apologize, sometimes accompanied by a gift. At first, I thought maybe I was messing up more. Maybe I was missing some big social cues again. Then, about a week ago, Jake had some friends over at my place. After a while, my social battery drained, so I excused myself and went to my room to read and recharge. Later, I'd realized I'd left my phone charger in the living room. When I went to get it, I overheard Jake telling his friends a story about me. He was laughing and saying, "One little word about being hurt and she'll buy me anything I want." It's hard to explain what I felt at that moment, but hearing that really hurt. And in that moment, everything clicked. The endless apologies, the constant gifts, the sudden increase in mistakes I was supposedly making. He wasn't helping me. He was using me, using my trust, my guilt, and my need to do the right thing, twisting them for his own benefit. I didn't say anything, just went back to my room and closed the door. Texted him that I have work to do so he can stay at his place tonight. I'm obviously ending things. P.S. Sorry for the long post. I'm not ready to tell my friends yet, and honestly, writing it down helped me organize my thoughts. Now I have to cancel everything we had planned with my family for the holidays, plus our trip, and that's a lot of work. Thank God I always book everything myself and choose places with free cancellation. Also, writing this all out makes it easier for me to send to my family, my friends, our mutual friends, and maybe even his family. I'm kind of close to his older brother and his fiance, and his dad, who's a really nice guy. This way, Jake won't have the chance to twist the story and paint me as the villain. Update, again, first some postings, so I'm not completely sure I'm doing this right. I'll try to highlight some parts so you don't have to read the whole thing. I honestly didn't expect my post to get so much attention. I tried to reply to as many comments as I could. I read most of them and upvoted, but I didn't have enough energy to respond to everyone individually. Sorry about that. Thank you so much to everyone who shared advice, support, or kind words. I've read it all and truly appreciate it. The most important part, we broke up, which I guess isn't a huge surprise, but here's how it went down. I took Tuesday off to sort everything out, and honestly, I just couldn't put it off any longer. I canceled all of our summer plans and explained everything to my family and close friends. Still haven't talked with our mutual friends. Not sure if I will. Some of you suggested that I shouldn't even meet with Jake and just block him, but I knew that would only lead to endless texts, calls, and possibly him showing up at my door. He doesn't have a key to my apartment, so I decided to meet with him in a public place, a cafe, explain why I was ending things, and return his stuff that was still at my place. As expected, he tried to justify himself, saying it wasn't what he meant. I have never seen someone switch from panic to anger so fast. The moment he raised his voice, I left. Then I blocked his number. He did try to call my best friend later today, but she immediately blocked his number too. I also met with his older brother and his fiance. I decided not to send them the post, but explain it in person. I can't even describe how kind and understanding they were. They completely supported me. I'm really sad to lose contact with them. They had already invited me to their wedding, but I explained I wouldn't be able to attend because Jake would be there. Jake's brother's fiance, the sweetheart that she is, even offered to kick him out of the wedding, but I told her it wasn't necessary. I didn't want to stir up family drama over one person. Wedding planning is already stressful enough. 2, for the person who asked about my academic background, I saw your comment but couldn't find it later. And for people who doubted whether I was fit to be a therapist, I'm not a therapist. I have 2 bachelor's degrees, one in psychology and another in neuroscience. I have a master's degree in behavioral neuroscience. I'm currently working as a cognitive evaluator and research assistant while pursuing my PhD in clinical neuropsychology. In the past, I also completed an internship and later volunteered at a child development center where I supported children as part of a behavioral therapy team. 3. For those who mentioned you shouldn't diagnose people, I completely agree that my comment at dinner was inappropriate. But just to clarify, being narcissistic and having narcissistic personality disorder, NPD, are 2 different things. Being narcissistic, meaning having some self-centered traits, arrogance, or an excessive need for attention, is a behavioral description, not a medical diagnosis. You don't need a formal diagnosis to describe someone as narcissistic in casual terms. 4. About giving gifts, I'll definitely stop buying gifts as apologies from now on. 5. For those who said the post sounds AI written, as I replied to someone in the comments, English isn't my native language. I first learned it for academic purposes, mainly preparing for IELTS, so my English tends to sound a bit more formal and academic rather than casual. It's not something that bothers me or anyone I interact with, so I don't really see it as a problem. Oxford commas, dashes, etc. are the basics. It's not a crime to be a literate person. 6. As for how I'm doing now, honestly, I'm okay, or at least I know I will be. The breakup hurts, of course. It's a really awful feeling, especially considering that it was my first serious relationship, but I also know that not everyone is like Jake. I actually have a session with my therapist tomorrow, and I want to make sure I'm really processing everything in a healthy way. I tend to shut down and disconnect when I'm overwhelmed, so I'm trying to stay aware of that. One silver lining, as my best friend pointed out, is that I'll have more time to focus on work now. Our next story is, he destroyed me after 7 years of loyalty, cheated on me 2 months postpartum, and now demands a mutual divorce for cash. I gave this man 7 years of my life. I supported him financially when he had nothing. I believed in him when no one else did. I sacrificed my dreams so he could chase his. I had a child young because he wanted it. 2 months postpartum, while I was still physically and mentally healing, he started an affair with a divorcee coworker he had known for a month. Together, they kicked me and our newborn out of the city like we were trash. I was sent back to my parents' house, broke, traumatized, with a tiny baby in my arms. He stole all my savings. He hit me, abused me, degraded me, called me fat and crazy while I was healing from giving birth to his child. He shared my private photos, he slandered me to our mutual friends, and not one of them had the decency to ask if I was alive. And now, he has the audacity to say, sign a mutual divorce, don't file any cases, then maybe I'll give you some money. Maybe. As if he's doing me a favor, as if I owe him mercy after everything he put me and my child through. Meanwhile, I'm seeing all of my daughter's milestones, her first smile, her first laugh, alone. I'm picking up the pieces alone. I'm living each day carrying the betrayal, the abandonment, and the silence alone. He flipped overnight once he started making money. He traded loyalty, love, and fatherhood for a richer woman. And he thought I would just quietly disappear. I won't. I'm still here. There's got to be lawyers out there who, in situations like this, if it's provable, would be more than willing to do some kind of pro bono work, right? I just feel like in OP situation, there's gotta be somebody out there that is willing to take this on, take that guy to court, get divorced, and get the repayments that he so deserves after abandoning his wife and kid. At least one can dream. Coppertop TX commented, document, document, document. Make sure you save all the receipts and every drop of tea to spill on him. Get a lawyer, heck, get a shark of a lawyer, and take him through every inch of heck you can drag him through. Make him pay and ruin his side piece's reputation. Seriously, retribution feels wonderful against those who richly deserve it. The father of my children dumped me for a college girl with a trust fund after we'd wed, and I gave him 2 beautiful girls. I had aged, so I had to go in favor of younger and prettier. I refused to go quietly. I went after and was awarded by the judge full custody of the kids, along with child support. He got 3 hours every other Saturday for visitation, supervised, and was ordered to pay $160 a month in support. He refused to attend visitations and refused to send the support checks, so I went back to get his pay garnished. As soon as I had the garnishment, he quit working. I ended up suing him for non-payment plus interest on 10 years of child support. The kids are in their 40s and he hasn't had a month go by without having to file a new hardship declaration to avoid payment of the judgment from 22 years ago. Our next story is, I am certain my best friend / former roommate was sabotaging me by adding a significant amount of extra calories to my food. Here's why. I don't have proof, but I'm certain my best friend of 5 years, who was also my roommate, had been sabotaging my health and my physical appearance for the last 2 years. All the signs that I was completely blind to while it was happening all add up to this being the case. Everything adds up to her, without my knowledge, adding a significant amount of extra calories to my food. She was in culinary school for most of the time we lived together and always insisted on making food for the both of us. She said she needed the practice, that she enjoyed it, and that she didn't want or need my help. In my eyes, it was always this really kind, generous thing that she didn't have to do. I had nothing but appreciation for her. A few months into her kindness, I started rapidly gaining a lot of weight. A lot. And it made no sense. My portion sizes were completely normal. She would even give me the recipes for everything she cooked. And when I started getting concerned, I decided to track and calculate my calorie intake based on the recipes and portions. Everything added up to a very average daily calorie intake. It was something I couldn't figure out no matter how much I tried. The weight was coming on fast. I went to the doctor and got a blood test done because I thought there must be something seriously wrong with me. That's when I was diagnosed with hypothyroidism. So for a while, that answer was good enough for me. I blamed my thyroid. Even despite the extent of the numbers still not making sense, the amount of weight I gained, the pace of it was insane. I went from skinny to obese. It completely destroyed my mental health, my confidence, my social life, everything. People started treating me differently, looking at me differently, but in my eyes, my incredible roommate was just always there for me, being so supportive and helping me through it. 2 months ago, I moved out. I haven't lived with her since. I've lost 20 pounds without even trying, all while taking the same amount of calories. That's when this clicked for me, seeing the sudden drop in weight after moving out. I don't know exactly what she was doing to my food. I have no physical evidence, but I know she was doing this. I've been thinking about how I'm going to confront her, but I'm not sure. I'm beyond disgusted. Look, I don't want to be like, OP's lying, or try to in any way invalidate what OP is experiencing, but it's a very well-known and very classic symptom of hypothyroidism that you gain weight. And I'm definitely no expert as far as medicines go and treatment of hypothyroidism, but like many medications do, is it not crazy to say maybe it just took a while for the medications to really start doing their job? Like, is it for certain that this friend was adding some like tasteless, odorless, calorie-inducing material to everything she made? Too High to Vent commented, so as someone with hypothyroidism, I can say that I gained weight super fast and it took 6 months to a year of being on medicine to notice a difference. It sounds more like your body is adjusting to the meds. Our next story is, I just got the staff of my group home fired. So there's the staff at my group home that has been notoriously lazy and leaves us alone in the house for hours at a time. On Saturday, she left 3 of us alone to take the one client she bonds with to the store for half an hour without inviting any of us 3 or even telling us that she was leaving, which is mandatory for her to do. She was supposed to put dinner out. All food is locked in a fridge in the basement, and she didn't bring up anything to eat before leaving. It was about 6 p.m. and she's supposed to gather food around 5 p.m. When she returned, she immediately left the house in her own car. I called her name because I wanted to ask for something to eat. She either ignored me or didn't hear because she was loudly talking to her cell phone. She was gone for another hour and a half. Just a side note, I have an eating disorder. It's very hard for me to ask for food, and when I actually get a hunger cue and get hungry, I need to eat. Anyway, I just overheard the house manager say that she would not be working here anymore, and I am pleased. That is all. You mean to tell me that OP's not experiencing the crooked, evil intro to pretty much every old school fairy tale? That OP isn't being treated as bad as Cinderella was? That OP doesn't have to live in a broom closet like Harry Potter did? Let's give some props to these people who are actually trying to make sure that the people watching these kids in the group home are somebody that actually cares about watching the kids in the group home. OK Release 584 commented, I lived in a group home while in middle school. Some of the staff were terrible and showed blatant favoritism, but thankfully they never did that. But we had to get our food from the main building. We had a kitchen, but no food was allowed in the home. That would have sucked to not have the food. I'm sorry you dealt with that. You're allowed to have a phone in the group home? OP responded, yes, it's technically an adult foster care home, so I'm independent. They're just supposed to help with food and meds. Our next story is, my brother and I are planning to go no contact with our mother. I'm a 19-year-old female, and I have a twin, Brian, fake name, who's male. Our mother has always treated us different. My brother got praise, I got scorn. As far as I knew, we had no other family. She's an only child, her parents are gone, and our dad wasn't in the picture. If I did something wrong like forgot a chore or got a low grade, I was yelled at, sometimes hit. If he did the same thing, it was brushed off. My brother noticed this treatment early on. An instance that sticks out to the both of us was when I was 7 years old. Mother had a birthday party for my brother and his friends. He got his favorite flavor of cake, food, etc. My name wasn't even mentioned. It was a pool party, so I put on a swimsuit my mother had bought me, and when she saw me in it, she called me a promiscuous S-word and told me I was grounded and couldn't swim or play. I spent the day in my bedroom. Now, with the favoritism shown to him, my brother could have turned out really entitled. Yet somehow this behavior from mom had the opposite effect. He snuck inside and brought me cake and gave me one of his presents. I cried and unleashed all the sadness, which I feel bad about to this day because he was also a child, and it wasn't or isn't his job to shoulder my pain. After that, I noticed he made an effort to make sure I was included. His friends became my friends because he refused to do anything without me. He said that they could deal with it or not be his friend. Any friends I made on my own weren't welcome in the house, so he made sure mother thought they were his friends. Sometimes we would hang out and Brian would do his own thing elsewhere on the playground or wherever we were, and I got to feel like a normal kid playing and having fun. He made sure I got gifts, mostly his, and that when I did something good or cool, he was my loudest cheerleader. At our next birthday, he specifically asked for a theme from a show he knew I was a fan of, but he didn't care for. He played it up to our mom as this being his biggest dream ever. When it came time for the cake, he asked our mom for something he knew was inside and let me blow out the candles. It was the first time I'd ever had a cake for me on my birthday. Later, in high school, if he went on a trip or to a concert, he made sure I got to go, phrasing it as him needing me there as a favor. Example, but mom, Timmy's mom says I can't come unless his little sister has someone to go with too, so she doesn't bother us. And just like that, we are both at a concert singing as loud as we could. I don't know how she never caught on, but I'm not about to look a gift horse in the mouth. I started working at 16 because mom said I needed to contribute. Brian got a job shortly after. Mom tried to get him to quit because his schoolwork was important, her words, but he said it wasn't fair his friends got to have jobs and buy their own things. She caved. Mom would take money from my check to pay for my food, etc. Brian would split his check with me because mom would buy all his stuff even though he was working. Then something wonderful happened. Before turning 19, Brian found our dad. He had been gifted a 23andMe test from a friend and was encouraged to learn more about his heritage and see if there was anything cool. Like related to Vikings or something. Well, no famous Vikings, but he matched with a young man in another state. We contacted him. This guy was our older half-brother. He put us in contact with our dad, who had apparently been looking for us for years. He explained that he had been married, had our brother, divorced, and then had gotten together with our mother. When she found out that she was pregnant, she left him after confessing she was cheating on him, saying the pregnancy probably wasn't his, and moved in with the other guy who later left her when we were about a year old. Dad pleaded with her to stay and even said that he would raise us regardless of who the bio dad was. She still left. We had a meeting over Skype and our dad cried upon seeing us. Maybe I'm biased, but I swear we look like the spitting image of our dad. He apologized over and over for not finding us sooner, but that's not his fault. We also found out that we had a huge family on dad's side. He has 7 siblings and all of them have 2 to 5 kids each. Wow. I asked if he knew more about anyone on mom's side, but he didn't know of anyone else. She had also told him that she had no parents, so maybe she was telling the truth about that. Brian wants to look more and see if he can find any extended family on my mother's side at some point. Brian explained what was going on with Mom and her treatment of me and how he wanted a way out for both of us. Our dad immediately said that we should come to him and our family. Wow, typing that is surreal. Our family. He lives in a different state, and it took months to get everything together, especially tracking down important documents like birth certificates and such. Brian and I want to go no contact with Mother. After months of planning, everything is now set. We have so much waiting for us. We have grandparents, cousins, aunts, and uncles. We have family. I'm ready to cry just thinking of it. We are ready. We're leaving the night before our birthday and celebrating with family who loves us. I keep crying thinking of it. I'm happy. I'm so happy. Brian says that he hasn't really seen me smile in a long time and hugging me. I did ask Brian if he was sure he wanted no contact. Mother obviously loved him. He would be losing that if he left. I understand wanting to help me, but I feel bad he's leaving someone who gave him everything. He said he has watched our mother mistreat me, call me names, and even hit me over the years, and he's done. He wants nothing to do with her. He couldn't do much about it then, but now he can make it up to me. I told him he didn't need to make anything up. He was a child same as I was. It's enough that we're getting out and we are okay. A clean slate for both of us. We're going to be free. We're going to be loved. I'm blessed to have my brother, and now I'm blessed to be reunited with a family I didn't even know was waiting for me. Wish us luck. I can certainly see why OP is more than happy to share this story. I mean, to be fair, there is a lot of pain and a lot of struggle that OP experienced and is kind of divulging here. But OP's kind of essentially strapped to a rocket of euphoria and is about to experience probably the best times of their life right ahead. All I can really say is that I'm really happy things are working out so lovely for OP. Select Goat 5572 commented, "Yay, happy dance for you guys. I know why your bro doesn't want to stay around, because your mom's an abuser. Even if she never laid hands on you, which I saw you said she did, but even if she hadn't, what she did was still abuse to you. What sibling could stand by when seeing that and not be affected? Only entitled to jerk siblings, and your brother is not a jerk. You and your brother owe your mom nothing. It was her choice to have you. It was her choice to keep you. It was her choice to hide you from your father. It was her choice to treat you guys the way she did. Neither of you owe her anything. Take the gift your father is offering and go find your family. My mom was adopted, and though you might never be as close to your birth family because of the separation, you might find some new besties among your family. And it sounds like your brother will always be your bestie. Why wait? Why put yourself through the heck? Go now, just go. You'll be amazed at the peace that washes over you once you leave town for good." Our next story is, my parents are harming my 5-year-old's health and ignoring me. What should I do? My 5-year-old son has gained a lot of weight just over the past year. I do my absolute best to set healthy eating habits and encourage physical activity. The biggest issue I'm facing is my parents. I'm a young single mom currently in nursing school, so I heavily rely on my mother and father for school drop-offs and pickups. I am extremely grateful for their help, but they do not respect the boundaries I set for my son. It's been a recurring issue. They simply don't listen. When I ask my son if they let him drink juice or soda, he usually says no at first, but eventually admits that they told him to lie to me. This isn't new behavior either. When he was supposed to transition from bottles to regular milk, they hid bottles from me and ignored my wishes then too. When I confront them, they get mad, yell at me, and make me feel horrible. They pretend to agree with my rules, only for me to find out later they lied. I don't think they fully understand how serious this is. My son's A1C has been trending higher at every doctor's appointment, from 5.4 to 5.6. Despite my hesitations, I let them take him on a 10-day vacation recently while I stayed back to work. When he returned today, he looked like he had gained 10 pounds. His chest and stomach looked noticeably swollen. For context, growing up in their house, I was obese most of my life. I was pre-diabetic by 15, and my mother even started the weight loss surgery process for me when I was 16. I didn't actually have surgery until I was 20. It makes me so angry and upset because they know I need their help, but instead of supporting my parenting, they do what they want, jeopardize my son's health, and even coach him to lie. I feel trapped between needing their support and wanting to protect my son's well-being. What can I do in this situation? I'm genuinely at a loss. I'm gonna be honest, I know it's a little harder than just saying, oh well, I'm gonna find alternative care options for my kid, but you kind of just have to stop letting your kid be watched by these people who are hurting more than helping. Doubly so if you're telling them to their face how they're actively damaging the kid's health, and they aren't showing any kind of remorse or trying to rectify the situation or anything like that. I mean, how many times do you want to keep waving your hand over this candle before you realize every single time you're going to be burned? Aggravating Secret 7 commented, I'm going to give you some real honest mom-to-mom advice. Grow a backbone. If you don't stand up for yourself and in turn your son, your parents can potentially harm his health. They've already taught him to actively lie to you about food. What else could they teach him to lie about? The hardest part of parenting is breaking the intergenerational trauma we carry. This same pattern played out when you were a child. Now you have to break it. Remove any permissions with his childcare that your parents have, and make sure staff understands that he cannot leave with them. If you can't be there to monitor what they're giving him, he cannot go. Use any form of childcare you can, but you cannot let your parents have him any longer. And also, take him to the pediatrician, have them document his weight, his A1C, your concerns, all of it. If CPS gets involved or they start pushing for grandparents' rights, then you'll have his health documented for any court or social worker to see. This is going to sound ruthless, and it is. But if you're not ruthless in protecting your son, he will be harmed. Our next story is, what the freak? I'm a lesbian? I, 23-year-old female, have just found out that I've never actually been attracted to men. I've been forcing myself to be attracted to men, including my boyfriend I've been with for around 3 months for the sake of conformity. I thought I was bi, but I'm not. I went to go hang out with a woman I've been friends with for a while to catch up and see a movie together. Towards the end of our night, we were reading a book together and sat close. I felt something like I've never felt then. I felt alive. I don't know how to process this. I've never felt this with a man. I've forced myself to be okay for the longest time, but I've never felt an ounce of attraction to my boyfriend. What do I tell my family? My friends? What do I tell anyone? I'm currently on a train back to the city I live in, holding back tears and spacing out hardcore. Not asking for advice, just needed this off my chest somehow. You know, I'm kind of curious how many people would agree with me, but I almost feel like it comes down to an individual level. Like, I feel like I know myself and I'm pretty secure in who I am and what I would be attracted to. But I can't lie that there have been people who come along that are in stark contrast to any of the preferences I would say I have, and that person on an individual level is so captivating or alluring, like the chemistry with that person is just so good that it makes me start to question just how much flexibility I really have. Big Bingus Friday commented, people calling you emotionally immature for being in a relationship with a guy you aren't attracted to have clearly never dealt with comp het. Don't listen to those jerks. OP, welcome to the club. It's definitely a huge realization and change, but the relief of knowing who you are and living who you are and loving in your community is so beautiful and powerful. I hope you've got support, you deserve it, and you deserve to be celebrated for living your truth. And Pride Month's only a little ways out too. I hope it'll be a special one for you. Our next story is, my wife makes me feel worthless. A throwaway account. I just need to vent. I've been married for 20 years and my wife chose to be a housewife. She's smart, intelligent, and qualified, but for some reason she could not cross the mental threshold of commitment to a job. Despite the encouragement from me, family, and friends, she said she wasn't confident. We had several arguments about this, as I was in a mid-income job and we had to compromise on a lot of things due to financial constraints. When we had our twins, I worked 2 jobs to keep afloat. I slowly understood her insecurities and came to terms that she cannot contribute financially to our family. A decade ago, one of my projects became a big success and I got a lucky promotion. Money started flowing into the family and we were having some extra funds regularly. Upon the advice of a friend, I invested $10,000 into the stock market and as luck would have it, I made $40,000 from that. We were happy as it was the first time ever that we had access to such money. She said it would make her happy if she could feel the money in her account, so I transferred the $40,000 into her account. Fast forward a few years, my position at the company grew and so did the financial returns. She periodically asked for money to be deposited in her account to feel it. I didn't see a problem with the funds being in either of our accounts, as it was ours. However, a few months ago, without discussing with me, she used a big chunk of the money in her account to fund her hobbies. She loves making glass sculptures and it's not a cheap venture. When she initially proposed starting this business, we decided to make a small investment to check the process and learn our way around. But she decided herself and made a 5 times investment into it. For months, I didn't know that such huge money was gone. When I learned the truth, I was shocked. We had a big argument. I said it wasn't her money to decide unilaterally, as the ownership of the money in both our accounts is shared, and spending has to be decided together. She argued that all the money in her account was hers. This bitter argument about money went on for weeks. Since then, I've seen a big change in her. On one hand, every time I get a bonus or a commendation from my company, she belittles my success, that I was lucky, or that I'm standing on the shoulders of other coworkers whose hard work went unnoticed. On the other hand, if something goes wrong, she repeats it over and over and revisits all the hard times we had in the past and blaming me for those days. If I say anything about her choice to be a housewife and her insecurities, I am a typical controlling husband. Her hobby turned business of glass sculptures is not doing good. If I show care about her failing business and try to help, I'm accused of snooping. If I remain distant from it, I am accused of being a husband who loves to see his wife fail. Right now, I live a life where I expect a degrading comment in every situation. I am not kidding. Update: thank you everyone for voicing your opinions. Here are some additional points. I always believe that all money is our money. Even though she didn't work in a job, she took care of the family. She supported me in thick and thin phases. I know it wasn't an easy time for her when we had our twins. It's fair to say that even though I earn the money, the ownership is shared. In my opinion, it doesn't matter which account the money sits in. Even today, her bank accounts have more money than my accounts. Knowing her insecurities about working, I feel that if I suddenly die or am severely debilitated, my wife and kids should not have financial trouble. I don't have the confidence in her that in the current situation she would be able to financially manage without me. If something happens to her, I can always take care of the kids. That's the reason for me to deposit more money into her accounts than mine. I pay all the bills from my account and deposit monthly allowance, mutually agreed, into my wife's account for her personal expenses. The $40,000 was a one-time thing. Again, I didn't really care which account the money was in. After all these years, all that matters to me is the well-being of my wife and kids. Since starting her business, she's developed these weird arguments. She claims that money in her account is her earning. I don't have a right to question her spending of her earnings. I argue, how are you earning without working? Do I have the same right to spend my earnings without your consent? I only get blamed as a chauvinistic husband for asking those questions. Even worse, because I had the audacity to claim that all earnings are mine but ownership is shared, I am constantly belittled that those earnings were a result of luck, or the success happened because others supported me to grow. She is desperate for her business to succeed. I respect that and want to support it as much as I can, but she wants to fund it until it succeeds. I disagreed and said that we should have an upper limit and evaluate our position. She resents me for that. I'm now cut off from access to her account. She asked me to limit her access to my account, which is pointless because once all the bills are paid, there is change left in my account. I'm no psychologist, I'm no therapist, but it feels like there must be something greater going on here, right? Like it kind of just feels like they have something left unfulfilled that they're not really communicating, or it feels like they're being left out from. I mean, I guess it just all around feels like something is not being communicated here. If OP's partner doesn't want to communicate that or can't communicate that, I think it's already causing issues, it's just bound to cause even more. OnlyEducator5249 commented, "Many people will rush to tell you to end it and run. 20 years together is a long time, worth fighting for, at least trying to fight for. It seems she feels empty, not important. This is something that is difficult to address, especially if she doesn't acknowledge it. Boundaries must be set. Easier said than done. Perhaps couples counseling or therapy will be beneficial. However, I suggest doing extensive research to find an unbiased professional to help. Let me be clear, what you have achieved is incredible. You earned your success. Putting you down is the response of someone lacking confidence and purpose. For what it's worth, you are a valuable person. Stay strong, but be gentle, patient, and above all, stay calm. Best of luck, brother." Our next story is, I finally cut off my mother after 27 years, and I don't feel guilty anymore. For most of my life, my mom has treated me like a punching bag. Emotionally, verbally, and sometimes even physically when I was younger, she would tell me that I was a burden, that I ruined her life by existing. When I got good grades, she said I thought I was better than her. When I got bad grades, she said I was as dumb as she always knew. Nothing was ever good enough. The hardest part? She would turn around and play the loving mother to the outside world. I would hear people say how lucky I was to have her. It made me feel crazy, like I was the problem. When I got into college, on scholarships I fought tooth and nail for, she guilted me into living at home to save money. It wasn't about saving money, it was about control. Fast forward to this past week, I got engaged to the most supportive person I've ever met. He's seen the worst of it, but never pushed me to make a choice. He just stood by me. I told my mom the news, and she immediately started picking it apart. "You're too young. I'm 27. He's just after your money. I work 2 jobs. We both are broke." Then she said something that finally broke me. "You're going to ruin his life like you ruined mine." I hung up the phone mid-sentence. I blocked her. I blocked the flying monkeys she sent after me too. And you know what? I feel light. I feel free. I thought I would be racked with guilt, but I'm not. I'm angry. I'm relieved. I'm grieving the idea of a mother I never had, not the real person. I don't know if anyone will read this, but I needed to get it out. I'm finally choosing myself. Maybe it's selfish, but maybe selfish isn't a bad word anymore. Thanks for listening. I think if you're confronted with a relationship like this, you have to be selfish. You have to choose yourself. I mean, you want to talk about selfish? Who's OP's mom looking out for? In everything they said or did towards OP, who was it ever in the best interest of? Then ask yourself, what is selfish? What OP did or what OP's mom did? Our next story is, I hate my wife's kid. Truly need to get this off my chest. I've been dealing with this feeling for over a year, maybe 2 now. He's 17 and is a disrespectful, undisciplined, unmotivated punk butt who takes advantage of his mom. Mom doesn't discipline him anymore, as to not have her house destroyed, which his older sister did. Same situation, different story with her, and basically treats him as a baby, which I understand, it's her son. I've had altercations with him in the past because I end up losing my crap due to him being disrespectful to his mom. I grew up with a single mom and was surrounded by women, so I don't take anything like that towards women lightly. His older sister was a nightmare. I blame her for having an influence on him and supplying his weed addiction, and his dad is in and out of jail. I don't have a problem with weed, I just don't like having it in the house around my 2 younger daughters. His sophomore year of high school, he started ditching a lot and disappeared for a day without letting anyone know, to which I filed a police report. Mom did nothing to discipline him when he returned. He then demanded that he wanted to go to another school, continuation, and would not go until he switched. He didn't go for a week, and then mom enrolled him into the other school. Since this new school, he's missed almost 4 months of school, and when he does go, doesn't show up until an hour or 2 before school lets out. Mom has disciplined him a couple times after I tell her something needs to be done, shutting off his cell service, shutting off Wi-Fi, removed his door, but at the end of the day, he does what he wants. We've talked to the school multiple times and have even had house visits from one of the teachers. Even when the teacher has showed up, it's like pulling teeth to get him out of bed. He sleeps most of the day and stays up most of the night. Mom thinks he has a sleeping problem and has made appointments for a sleep study, but she doesn't follow through. I believe he just does this to avoid going to school. He doesn't have a problem at all. He woke up early one day and got to school early because it was a field trip. So all of a sudden, this sleep issue is not a problem? Get the freak out of here. He's on track to not graduating and really doesn't care. All he does while awake is smoke weed and scroll his phone while staying in his bedroom. He does absolutely nothing to contribute to the house. And Frank's drum kit is more useful than him. He's a parasite. Mom and I have talked plenty of times about it, but it only ends up with her getting angry at me. I'm just completely over him and all his crap. It bothers the crap out of me because mom continues to do crap for him just so he likes her, brings food to his room for him, gives him money. I'm more than sure his real problem is with me, and at this point he's done too much to where I don't want a relationship with him. I'm the type of person that will hold a grudge until the day I die. At this point, I'm just hoping that when he turns 18, mom kicks him out like she did to his sister. But if she doesn't, I'm highly considering leaving until he's gone. Having him around just absolutely bugs the crap out of me and keeps building more and more hatred and anger for him. Until he gets his crap together, I want nothing to do with him. Thanks for taking the time to read my rant. Is anybody else confused as to why OP's still sticking around? Like, is the relationship between OP and their partner that good that they're willing to overlook how they're getting treated, how their kids are getting exposed to this behavior, and how their partner is not actually being a parent to seemingly either of their kids? I don't want to be offensive, I don't want to be crude, although my mind is very easily going there for that one-liner. Like, just how good is it that you're sticking around, but like, why is OP sticking around with this? Any Horror 5762 commented, I'd say it's time to pack yourself and your younger kiddos up and go somewhere else. He's old enough to know and act better. Mom enabling him isn't going to change through conversations with her anymore. She needs to figure it out because he's about to be an adult and in the real world and can't rely off of y'all when you're still raising younger kids. I would take the younger ones and go stay somewhere else until she can figure out she's actively feeding into this behavior and fix it, but I wouldn't stick around with my younger ones watching all of this. Our next story is, I walked up to a random guy and asked him to be my friend. Basically what the title says, I've been feeling really crappy lately. My girlfriend left me for not being wealthy enough. My mom, who's the only parent I have left, got sick. And on top of that, my car broke down on my way to the bakery out of nowhere. I don't really have anyone who I can vent to and talk about. So today, when I was going out for some groceries, I just came up to a neighbor whom I've seen maybe once or twice before, told him my name, and straight up asked if he wanted to be my friend because I could use a good talk in my life right now. He said, sure thing, bro. High-fived me, and we're meeting up for a beer at a local bar tonight. I know it doesn't seem like much to some people, but meeting new people is really hard when you age, and I'm really happy that he agreed. I'll let you guys know how it went. So first of all, my condolences to OP. It feels like life is just kicking OP and then kicking again. I just really hope for OP's sake that this meetup at the bar goes well, and suddenly they have a neighbor buddy that they can just lean on a bit. Like, is that not kind of the dream as far as friends go? A neighbor who's also like a best bud? Sweet Honey Doll commented, that's actually awesome. A lot of people would have just bottled it up or let loneliness keep them isolated, but you took a shot and put yourself out there. That takes guts. Hope the beer goes well. Sometimes the most random connections turn into solid friendships. And hey, even if it doesn't become a lifelong thing, it's still a win. You got out of your own head for a bit, and that's huge when life's been kicking you down. Rooting for you, man. Let us know how it goes. Our next story is, best friend tried to take my place and thought she'd win? He gave her the same heck he gave me. I was with my ex from the time I was 13 until I was 27. That's nearly half my life. We had 3 kids together, now 18, 16, and my youngest is 6. We officially broke up in 2019, but the relationship had been falling apart long before that. A year before we ended things for good, we had a short separation. And that's when things took a turn I never saw coming. Our relationship wasn't just rocky, it was abusive. Physically, emotionally, and mentally, I stayed away longer than I should have because when you're young and in deep, especially with kids involved, you start believing that chaos is normal, that pain is just part of love. During our brief breakup, my ex started getting close to a mutual friend of ours, someone I considered one of my best friends. She was with me in the hospital when I thought I was miscarrying. She planned and threw my baby shower. She was by my side through moments I thought only a real friend would show up for. So when I found out after our breakup that he was staying with her, half of me couldn't believe it and the other half knew it. He denied everything, of course, told me I was crazy, jealous, bitter, but little by little, it became clear. She was stepping into the mom role with my kids, playing house, trying to be me. She really thought she had won. Eventually, he admitted they were together, and over time, he started telling me all about how unhappy he was, how he was constantly cheating on her, how he had even gotten physical with her too. Same playbook, different woman. And she, like me, thought that she would be the one to fix him, that she would get the version of him I never had, that he would marry her, and that she would be the new mother figure in my kids' lives. But the dysfunction didn't stop there. At one point, he had her fighting with another woman, both of them claiming they were the closest to his family, both claiming to be the real one, both saying they had the ring. It was like watching someone else live through the same nightmare I had just escaped. Just chaos, control, and manipulation all over again. Now, she's gone. I haven't seen or spoken to her since. He dragged her through the same mud he pulled me through, and worse. And in the end, no one won. All that happened was more pain, more destruction, more lives shaken up by one man's mess. As for me, I stayed single for 5 years after that. I focused on healing, raising my kids, and rebuilding my peace. I had to relearn what love wasn't so I could recognize what it is. And now, I'm finally with someone new. A man who is kind, compassionate, and safe. He brings me flowers, takes me on dates, dances with me in the kitchen, and shows up for me in ways I didn't know were possible. He would never hurt me. He just loves me in the gentle, steady way I always deserved. I'm still healing, but I'm no longer stuck in survival mode. I've made it out the other side, and honestly, that's the real win. I gotta be honest, from the outside looking in, you see a relationship like this come along, and you think to yourself, how could somebody be so in over their head falling for somebody that they're willing to step in on what was supposed to be their best friend, try to take their kids, even fight with multiple other women trying to prove that I am the one that this awful human being truly loves and deserves. But I guess sadly that's kind of what harmful, controlling relationships like that cause. Lucas Basques commented, "A tale as old as time. He or she treats me differently from you." Or the other banger, "He or she changed. They're a better person now." I will never understand how someone can be stupid and evil enough to do this to someone. They really deserve all they get in the end. OP responded, "Me either. I had to understand they are both broken individuals. I held on to the story for years, only sharing with those close to me, but it feels so good to let it out." But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another absolutely crazy Redditor confession, check out that video on the left. Or if you missed my latest video, check out that video on the right. That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.